Why did Okay, let's see. I hope this is working properly. Okay, here we go. Let's get into it. I need to have some music loaded from now on. Okay, let's turn the camera on. See how many people are viewing. Oh, nice. Nice, nice, nice. Let's get into it. I hope the audio is coming through. I hope everything's coming through. I can hear. Okay, here we go. Ah, first time. It's been a minute, but I'm back. Oh my gosh. I am so like not used to streaming at all. Like it's not like something I'm used to anymore, but we're gonna get into it. Okay. So, today we're going to be talking about the mind of a psycho. I thought it would be a really, really interesting space or interesting stream because, mindset and understanding the mindset of another person is great. You guys can see me great. Just let me know if you guys can hear any issues. Thanks so much. Um, the mindset is so, so incredibly important. Anyway, I'm Layla. I talk about propaganda, psyops, social engineering, politics, all the good things that make our world go round, make it an amazing place to be. So, anyway, it's been a minute. Oh, hey, you guys. MVPs in the chat already. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you guys' patience. I am so ready to get back into streaming. I cannot even explain to you. Now that I've figured out the mysteries of the universe, I'm ready to stream. I'm ready to bring it to you guys. Okay, I need to be multimedia. I need to be all of it. So, today we're going to be watching a video that's just basically it is a psychopath, a woman who has psychopathy. And yeah, she's just explaining her mindset. Now, the reason I thought this topic would be really good to start off with is because a lot of the times when I'm trying to explain the different techniques and tactics and how propaganda really works so that we can start to understand how our behaviors and our minds are shaped and influenced, just a little bit, people don't really see the full scope. They don't really see all the different layers that go into it. We're so used to, the idea that we watched a movie or we watched a show, we read a newspaper article, whatever it is, and that sort of just influenced us. It just made us over time believe certain things, or we were gullible and we believed it. Whereas propaganda works a little bit more subversive than that. I know a lot of you have probably heard that word subversive, but a propaganda is way more subversive. It's way more subtle. There's so many different, there's a huge process that goes into an effective propaganda campaign, an effective social media campaign, or social engineering campaign. And I need the universe to give me the lottery numbers, spill the tea. Of course, that's what we're gonna do. Um, so I wanted to get into all the nitty gritty, the things that we sort of gloss over, because partially they do with the unrecognized, maybe subconscious aspects of ourselves, things that we take for granted, things that we see as common sense, as normal, as just the way things are. And propaganda really works at the core of that to manipulate it. Oh, hey Alex. Um so it's not an easy thing to just decipher. And if you're not really sure about the definition of propaganda, exactly what it is, that's okay, because we're going to be going into the actual like textbooks that explain persuasive communication, how it works, how it influences the different types. Propaganda is usually associated with wartime. It's a very cheap way of achieving your political goals, let's just say, obviously, because going to war costs a lot of money. You got to feed them, and you have horses. You want to have white horses, you got to bleach them. That costs money. So propaganda, if you can influence people just from a leaflet, why not? So it's really, I feel like it's such an interesting topic, and not a lot of people discuss it from the depth that it actually deserves. So let's get into it. There's gonna be a lot. I really appreciate you guys joining and your patience. Can hear you, not see you. Now I see you. Okay, just checking the YouTube, getting things a little. I got my whole new setup together. I got my new software. I feel super upgraded, and I'm just ready to go. Oh shoot, forgot to put the HDMI cable in. Okay, if anything gets messed up, we know what it is. Let's just go ahead. Uh, so we're gonna start. Oh wow, you guys, like and retweet the space, repost the space, share the space, whatever you need to do. Subscribe to the channel wherever you're watching. If it's YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, I don't know if my TikTok is working, but X, wherever you are watching this, like and subscribe, share, let people know because we're going to talk about things that a lot of people are honestly too afraid to discuss because it's kind of scary because it's manipulation. Oh. So in this video, she explicitly talks about this woman who's a psychopath. She talks about how she went through the process of recognizing her mindset and the way she was so drastically different from regular people. And she actually talks about, and I don't know if you guys saw the trailer for this, but she talks about how she immediately she recognized she needed to get help because she realized all of her interactions with other people were based on manipulation. There was no genuine aspect to it in a way. It was all about manipulation, managing, and just doing what society kind of expects of you. So, we're going to get into that. Now, before we get into the video, I want to just give a little bit more insight into, like, I would say, as I'm working out how this information can be delivered, because again, it's very complex. It's not just putting a movie together, it's not just making a pamphlet or, a TV show or whatever ways we commonly associate with propaganda. There's a long process that goes into a successful propaganda campaign or an overall successful social engineering campaign, which are two different things, and we'll get into that later. I'm not going to go in depth on everything, but I feel like understanding mindset is going to be crucial because the first thing you need to do in order to protect yourself and understand how propaganda works, you're going to have to radically shift your mindset. The mindset we have, the mindset the average person has in society, is obviously not the mindset of a propagandist, someone who actually produces propaganda. It's not the same mindset as that coordinated effort, that group of people that are looking to push a message and drive change and action in a society. Because ultimately, that's what propaganda is really about. And that's what I like about it. Because while it seems like this sort of feminine, sort of emotional thing, oh, I'm gonna use logic. I'm gonna use logic, and somehow I'll be able to overcome the very meticulous and well planned out strategery that propagandists utilize to get us to change our behaviors and our mindsets around things. Um, Logic isn't going to do that. But propaganda ultimately is about changing behavior. So it's not just about feelings. It's not this like, oh, it's a soft thing. No, it's not a soft thing. Because the only thing that actually, and this is one of the most important things that I've recognized about propaganda, is it's not about how you feel or how your target, the person you're trying to influence or the, population, whoever, the target you're trying to influence, it's not about how they feel. It's kind of irrelevant. Look at it. I don't really care how they feel. It is about it is about action and driving action. And they will utilize the propagandists, and this is the first lesson of the whole mindset shift that you're going to have to take on for yourself, is that it's about doing whatever is necessary to drive that action, to trigger that action. So, for example, propagandists, they're not going to necessarily go straight forward to, hey, do this. They're going to push people, hey, do that. They'll use subtle and common tactics that they recognize will allow and produce the right effect and reduce people's resistance to this suggestion. That is the propaganda, the action that you want them to take. they'll give you like a false dilemma. They'll give you the idea of maintaining agency by giving you two choices. Like, oh, you can choose the red team or the blue team. Oh, that's a choice. No, it's not. It's a very limited false choice. It's not real. But because propagandists know how the brain and the inner mechanisms work, they understand that your self, your ego, loves to maintain agency. We don't want to feel like we're tricked, right? There's a common quote that everybody, I'm sure a lot of people know. Mark Twain, I believe, said it is it's easier to convince someone, it's easier to fool someone than to convince someone that they've been fooled, right? So there's so many mechanisms within our mind that really inhibit and make the whole effort of manipulation very difficult. So that's why it's not as straightforward as a simple pamphlet or a video or whatever it is. It's going to take time. And there's different phases to it. So the mindset is the crucial point. It's the starting point because if you maintain the mindset of, let's say, a normal person, of just like the regular, good person, quote unquote, you're not going to get very far because the propagandists, again, they have a totally different mindset. They view human beings as targets. They don't view you in your humanity. They view you in terms, let's say, of your biases, of your traumas, of the motivations that you have. Anything, anywhere that they can get a foothold into driving that change and making it as cost effective and with the least amount of effort as well. It's easier to get someone to do something they sort of already feel like doing, so it's good to understand who they are. Okay, he also said it ain't what you don't know that gets you in trouble, it's what you do know for sure that just ain't so. Interesting. Yeah, there's so many good quotes. There's so many good quotes. Well, we're going to get into all of those things. I just really wanted to start with the mindset because if you're not in the mindset of someone who is looking and actively interpreting propaganda, trying to analyze the psyop, trying to understand how you come to this conclusion of, oh, this is normal. Oh, this is normal. Like, I'm sorry, but throughout time and cultures, we've had extremely different ways of defining normal within a culture. Okay. There's huge amounts of archaeological records, there's huge amounts of like written records. There was a time when the common person didn't even understand or would recognize the color blue. Okay, so can you imagine if you're trying to create a propaganda campaign for whatever reason, relied on this color blue and making people recognize or somehow differentiate this color blue where the culture at the time didn't recognize it. They wouldn't understand what you're saying. They wouldn't have a foundation and understanding. They wouldn't be able to like really digest what you're talking about, you know? So it's really important to understand what that culture is, not take anything for granted, and most importantly, not project what you feel is correct, not project what you think is common sense. You need to understand who these people are, what they want, what's their motivation, so you can properly fine tune your message to your target. Okay. Oh, yeah, the Phoenicians. Nikki Nada. Hey, what's up? The Phoenicians. Yeah, purple. Exactly. I mean, we're dealing there's so much that goes into this, and I don't want anyone to take anything for granted. That's the number one rule I would say as we go through this and start to like really digest this information and analyze how propaganda works. Don't take anything for granted. You don't know. You don't know. So the mindset really helps you to pinpoint that. And I thought, what better way of showing how radically different? Because a lot of us, I mean, we don't think about, oh, that person's mindset is totally different. We just have our own sort of mindset or cultural reference, things that we take for granted. They're just normal, right? We don't think about necessarily the mindset of everyone we're dealing with, unless let's say we work in marketing or education or anything like that. So showing the contrast between a regular person, a regular quote unquote person, because we want to be inclusive, a regular person and a psychopath, it's a pretty stark contrast because there's a lot of things that go into how you perceive reality, how the mind works. It's not just this ephemeral, like, oh, magic fairy dust thing. It's not just this energetic mental realm thing. It's in the invisible um nothing. It's not just there, like thoughts and mind, and as your thoughts and the mental realm is only one part of it, and then you have your actual mind that's going to process information, because ultimately what we're doing constantly as people is processing information, okay, digesting it, analyzing it. They say blue, but what we call blue did not. Yeah, the blue, Antonio. Yeah, blue was part of black, I've heard, or it was just green. So there's a lot of ways that they interpret it. And I don't think their eyes weren't necessarily different than ours. They just didn't have that cultural awareness. And I'm sure in the future there'll be colors that we don't recognize and we don't have in our everyday vocabularies. So mindset. So you need to get out of your mindset. Sorry if it's uncomfortable. It's probably going to be uncomfortable, but a lot of this is because you're flexing new muscles, you're building new connections, you're looking at things from a new perspective that might be a little jarring. And, we want this sort of stability. That's what our ego really craves: stability, sameness, consistency. And it takes a lot of courage to break out of that, be able to recognize, there's a different mindset, there's a propagandist, there's someone who does not care about you as a human being. They care about your biases and childhood traumas and how they can exploit them for their advantage. Yeah, for their agendas. So let's get into this. Just want to explain the mindset. Like, what exactly is a mindset? Now, your mindset is a collection of thoughts and beliefs that shape your thought habits. Okay. In turn, your thought habits affect how you think, what you feel, and what you do. Your mindset impacts how you make sense of the world and yourself. So, the mindset of somebody who grew up in India and all the different cultural things that are expected and deemed as normal is going to be different from someone who grew up in, Canada, for example. So, all of these things go into it. It's this established set of attitudes. It's this reflexive sort of way of thinking, and it's the glass half full versus the glass half empty is, another example of mindset. Mm. So it really comes from all of these ways that you frame your mind and outlook, and it may also arise from a person's worldview or beliefs about the meaning of life. So there's a lot that goes into it. Never forget, people smarter than you are paying way closer attention to you than you are. Yeah, that's true. There's a lot going on, and you can't take these people for granted. I'm sorry. We always like to pretend, okay, that wouldn't work on us. We're smarter than that. We use logic, facts over feelings, da 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 da. But again, the propagandist doesn't just use the surface level verbal communication, okay? They use things like symbolism. They understand the subtle triggers like your biases and your traumas, right? The things that you don't notice. Because we know about the subconscious, right? We understand that there's a subconscious, there's this like deep subconscious. Woo. And then there's your conscious mind. And the real, I would say, the thing that stands out the most to me is the way the two states of mind really process information. Like your conscious mind, the one we're interacting with, that one processes a very limited scope of information, but obviously it's way more tangible. We can use it to do things like talk and communicate and, accomplish tasks in the real world. Whereas your subconscious, it's got a huge access of information But it's not the same. It doesn't operate the same as we do. It operates in a nonverbal capacity, let's just say. It heavily uses symbolism. Symbolism is a great way of communicating with your subconscious mind. And I know these things might sound like, whoa, what is she talking about? But just please bear with me. We're going to get into all of those different concepts. I'm just trying to, you know, give you a little taste of it, give you a little perspective on what really goes into understanding the mind and how propaganda manipulates it and how they pull off some amazing accomplishments in complete Mad Hatter Tea Party logic, if you can call it that, to get us to go along with the most ridiculous agendas, like feminism, like toxic feminism. How? I differentiate that between women's rights, not to trigger anybody, women's rights, and then like the actual psyop that is feminism, the like eugenics program that is feminism. It's like, wait, you want me to work more? Why would I want to do that? It doesn't make any sense. But it worked because they sold it to people and they made it a novelty and they made it look good. But obviously. Anyway, oh, yes. Hey, thanks you guys for joining. Remember, share it if you're enjoying it. Okay. So let's get into the video. We're going to now take a look at the mindset of a psychopath. So we can honestly observe objectively, because this will help train you and being able to recognize the contrast and the differences that would be present, because it's so much easier. It's easy to tell people, "Oh, just change your mindset. Oh, just change your mindset." When we're used to thinking a certain way for all of our life, what does that even mean? Like, I don't what do you mean change my mindset? This is the only mindset I have. This is the only mind I have. This is my culture. This is my society. I don't understand. So having that culture really gives you those contrasting edges to see the difference. So let's bring this lady up. She's really interesting. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know people could be this way. I didn't know that was possible. Because I didn't think too much about psychopathy, but we've all heard of it, but it's actually way more interesting. Usually, things are way more interesting than we initially think they are. Okay, let me just pull the video up. I really appreciate you guys joining. And I mean, there's so much to get into, like honestly. There's so much to get into with these topics. I love propaganda. I just think it's so fascinating. And also, I thought if there was anything that would be useful, it would be the ability to be able to effectively convince people to do what I want, right? I don't know why. I don't know why that doesn't come up more often for people, but I don't know. Most people, they have different motivations. Okay, let's switch it over. Here we go. I need to put some transition there. Oh, this lady. Okay, let me know if the audio works. It should work.
Why did you decide to get treatment?
So I would say that to find somebody professional to help you is the best thing that you could do. I think the reason why I started thinking I needed help is because I realized that I did not have an alternative to manipulating. The only way that I understood how to interact with people was through manipulation. I didn't even know how not to manipulate people in my relationships, and that eventually kind of just always led to them having issues, and then having these breakups. It wasn't until much later that I started taking it more seriously. It was after like 5 or 6 years. I had some problems with my employment. I had some problems with various relationships, friends that like broke up.
So you see how she's analyzing things, and there's actually a longer clip. I should get the longer clip. God. She's analyzing things sort of, she's looking at her environment, okay? She's looking at the outcomes. Never in this, what she's saying, she tells you I don't believe from watching this. I watched this like a couple months ago, but she never explains it from I felt bad, like this happened to me, or I was depressed about this, or anything like that. I don't recall her really speaking that way. Now, a lot of us would pass judgment on that and say, okay, that's weird. It is different, but this is how her mind actually works. This is how she processes things. There's nothing in reality that's just poof, it just appeared. Oh, it just happens. No, that's not how things work. Things have a process. Nature and consciousness and conscious creation, whether you want to believe it, a god or whatever, there's intelligent design. Okay. There is a reflectiveness of the way things are produced and created in our reality, and nothing just pops up. But so much, and I'm going to talk about this a lot, about the power differential that exists in society, specifically because we don't know how reality actually works, how things actually become, how to make change in our environment, in our life, in our world. That's a power differential. They tell us sort of just, oh, things just appeared. Oh, like Santa Claus just showed up and you just thought this way. No, there's a process. Just because it's very difficult, or maybe it's not so conscious and it's not something you can tangibly like say, okay, this was the day that I felt this way. This was the day I became a feminist. This was the day I became a radical communist or whatever. Um, yeah, intelligent design. I have a really good book on consciousness that I'm going to be doing reading from later on that will help us sort of get a grasp on it, because I like to explain things from like a mechanistic, non-religious aspect, and then you can take it all the way to spiritual. It doesn't matter. I don't care. I try to work as hard as I can to make all of my arguments sort of work in any sort of cultural framework you want to give it. If you want to say it's God, okay, great. If you want to say it's just this biological process, that's cool too. Because at the end of the day, there's real and then there's fantasy. And I don't know about you, but I can't deal. There's too much fantasy going on. I can't. I can't. So when she speaks, notice how she speaks. She doesn't speak in the terms of emotions. So immediately we have this person, and let's like restart. Immediately have this person. And if you're actually listening to her and not just projecting what you think she should feel and what you think she should be, you'll say, hey, why didn't she mention any of these like emotions that we usually feel?
Why did you decide to get treatment?
So I would say that to find somebody professional to help you is the best thing that you could do. I think the reason why I started thinking I needed help is because I realized that I did not have an alternative to manipulating. The only way that I understood how to interact with people was through manipulation. I didn't even know how not to manipulate people in my relationships, and that eventually kind of just always led to them having issues, and then having these breakups. It wasn't until much later that I started taking it more seriously. It was after like 5 or 6 years. I had some problems with my employment. I had some problems with various relationships, friends that like broke up with me, other relationships that broke up with me, problems with my family. And I thought, there's a little bit of a pattern to this. Every 3 years or so, my life kind of just falls apart, and then I just, reinvent myself, go to law school, start a new job, do whatever it was. But I thought, I'm getting in my late 20s now, and at this rate, I'm going to run out of career options, and so this isn't going to work out for me. And so I remembered, the 5 years before, what I had thought about sociopath, and I thought this time I will actually look into it and see what I can make of it, see if it applies to me, see if I can learn more about myself, see if I can stop this pattern of every 3 years self-destructing and starting over again.
Now, I really like, you guys are laughing. What's so funny? This is serious. This is super serial. Now, She has a totally different mindset. She has a totally different brain. This like goes outside of just mindset. This is like her actual brain functions differently than ours. Not gonna judge. This is really funny. It's really funny. She's hurting. Wait a second. Are you guys laughing? A woman is speaking. Oh my God. That has to be brutal to admit. See, now that's really good. In factor, I'm glad you brought that up. See, now she doesn't think of it again. We listened to that again. She doesn't think of it in terms of she felt guilty about it. She didn't say she felt guilty. She felt, she didn't say or describe any way that she felt about it. She just noticed a pattern. Wait, that was real? Yes, this is a real woman. This is real. She's a real psychopath. Yes, it's not fake. Um, she noticed a pattern in her behavior, and she she saw that every 3 years, she's in her late 20s, every 3 years, her life falls apart. Her friends don't want to be around her. Her family, doesn't like her because she's not engaging with people from an emotional way. She's engaging with people from a manipulative aspect. She's not like necessarily factoring in their feelings or engaging in their feelings at all. I'm sure she does a pretty good job of mimicking it. You see how the way she, she smiles when she talks. She tries to be warm. She does a good job at mimicking it. Um, but it's not something in her. Now, this again is real. This is not just some video of someone making these up. She's doing an actual she's trying to share her story. She's sharing her story. So, there's no brutality to it. It was just a mechanical thing. It was like, hey, I can't I can't keep resorting my life. It's not advantageous to me. It's not working well for me. So based on those factors, she said, "Hey, I'm going to go look this up and see maybe if this is me and if I can get help and if I can get treatment." I hope some people I know can attain that level of self-aware hilarity. I know. It's that she is just analyzing. Oh, yeah, Soren, she does sound different, that's for sure. She's just analyzing, okay, this is not working for me. And at a certain point, and I'm sorry, but if you're going to engage in any type of propaganda analysis, anything like that, when you're dealing with groups of people and these sort of things, you're gonna have to do the same thing. Sorry. You're gonna have to detach. You're going to have to take your emotions out of it and just look objectively at things. You know, there's a quote by someone who you're gonna have to put you're gonna have to hate your enemy so much that you'll be willing to put your emotions to the side so that you can win. I don't know who said that, but I'm just gonna claim it as mine. Just gonna claim it. This is the critical part is that you have to be able to bridge that because again, you can't color it with how you feel and how you want things to be. There's um there's a really empowering and liberating aspect aspect to doing that as well because you're just able to digest the information and objectively view things because a lot of the times guilt is introduced to us when we're young in order to manipulate us in order to control our behaviors. So sometimes you need to be able to rise above that and just recognize that, maybe these emotions aren't really important. Maybe sitting around moping and feeling sorry for yourself, especially when you're trying to be self aware and really reflective on your behaviors and outcomes, sometimes you have to put guilt aside and just say, hey, is this working? No, it's not. I do know who said it. Yeah. Philosophers. Yes, he said that. That was a great quote. I'm joking. Um, let's see. So Infactor says, I believe she noticed the pattern and got some help. She unlocked her emotional core. Now, I'm not sure exactly if she used emotions at any point in this. She sort of just works through things um, to identify the outcomes and maybe recognize what emotions other people have. Maybe she'll get into it. I hope some people I know can attain this level of self-aware hilarity. She's adjusting. She'll never have real feelings, though. Yeah, yeah. She talks about in another video, I think it might be the longer video, because I got this off of YouTube, where she saw a little baby possum. She was like, huh, what should I do with this little baby possum? Should I just drown it? And so she tried to drown it and it didn't die. So she was like, whatever, I guess I'll leave it. And she just talked about it like, wow, that woman's a psychopath. She is now an IRS agent. That's a good one, Nikki. Um, yeah, so I really don't know. Maybe if she just never had it, maybe she doesn't need to cope around it. So let's keep going. So this is really, really crucial. And again, this is like an extreme case. Not most people aren't going to be like this, but it helps you understand and see how differently people can think, interpret reality, and view themselves within the same even culture or society. Yeah, that poor possum. She won't have emotions of her own, but oh, the philosopher said she won't have emotions of her own, but she can retrain her reward system through CBT and stuff. Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's go. How has treatment affected you?
How has treatment affected you?
There are a lot of things that have gotten better since I have gotten treatment, since I've been seeing a good therapist. The thing that I found most helpful about therapy was all of my life, I had never really felt self-expression. I never really felt like I had self-purpose or a sense of self-fulfillment because I really had such a weak sense of self. All my life I had kind of felt like a cipher, almost like, you know, like a gas or a liquid that just occupies the space that it's in. I thought I fit in everywhere, but I really am nothing. If there's nobody around me, then I am nothing. You know, kind of like a chameleon, except the chameleon disappears when there's no one around. You know, or
I mean, okay, so this one is really interesting. And on Spaces, on X, there is a series that we do with, oh, I participate, it's like sort of rotating, that we actually do in Spaces on X, breaking down like people and their behaviors and just based on things. And we've looked at a lot of people who have suffered from the cult mindset, the woke mindset, you should say. And a lot of them aren't self-reflective. Everything is just reflecting, and especially in identity politics, it produces this mindset where you only can define yourself in terms of what you're oppositional to. So she's sort of just, she's not a person. There's no I, there's no me there. And that's really scary.
like kind of a hologram or something. Like you have to have the right situations in which I would appear. I would say after I kind of reintegrated kind of forgotten parts of myself into like a sense of
She's Simsum? Oh, yeah. Oh, KL, sad. Kids should learn more about cognitive science. Many kids go to autopilot mode and stay there for decades. Well, if we did that, people would be a little harder to control, wouldn't they? Again, I'm going to be talking about the power differential and why these things happen and why they're produced. To produce a power differential, if I know how to manipulate you and you don't know how to even control or manipulate yourself, guess who's going to win? Guess who's going to win? I wouldn't say she's an NPC. NPCs still have emotions. They're just so flatlined. There's nothing there's nothing there. They're just based in their lower animalistic sort of. When we talk about the chakras, I think that's a great model to explain like the NPC. It's just a very low level. There's nothing going on. they feel, they respond to stimulus and things like that. But I would say this is a lot more different. She's more cognitive. She's able to like actually look and reflect. NPCs don't do that. NPCs are NPCs. They're not, there's nobody there. There's nobody there to reflect. So I wouldn't call her an NPC. Let's see. That's disassociation from reality. That's what makes psychopaths different from sociopaths. Ooh.
When there's no one around, you know, or like kind of a hologram or something. Like you have to have the right situations in which I would appear. I would say after I kind of reintegrated kind of forgotten parts of myself into like a sense of self, into a sense of identity, because now I do. Now through therapy, I have like a sense of self, I have a sense of identity, I have self-expression. And because I have that, I think that my emotions, I have more complex emotions, right? Before it was all the primary ones like anger, frustration. I have a friend who went to kind of a therapy kind of like group session, and they were supposed to write down 3 emotions that they always recognize. And I think she wrote down happy, angry, hungry. And her partner in the exercise was like, hunger is not an emotion, but it is a feeling, you know? And if you're kind of like psychopathic, then that's kind of where you're focusing, is like, this is what I recognize about myself. Those are the things that.
If you're kind of psychopathic, like, oh my God, this just, isn't it crazy how different and how calm, like she's just so, just explaining it. No big deal. You know, I'm just kind of psychopathic. My emotions are very limited to hunger. That's what I feel. Kind of scary. But that's the level you need to be able to recognize that and not this is the difference between a propagandist and a regular normie. Normies are going to get scared, confused, go into denial, demonize, because that's like sort of our autopilot response. When there's something bad, we tend to shun it. We dislike it. That's where a lot of this like tribalistic mindset originates. Like in a group, in our tribe, there's the tribe and there's us, and there's the in group, and then there's the other. And the extreme form of that otherness is like bigotry and you know, violence, and even, you know, going so far as a supremacy mindset where we're so good we can just like dehumanize everybody else. And those things developed over time because, you know, we have to work together for genetics, all of these things. Normies deflect, yeah, in vector, totally. There's all of these things. So when we look at each individual aspect of what we take for granted as normal human behavior, again, you're going to have to be able to put your little emotions aside and recognize, okay, maybe what is the purpose of this? Like, why is bigotry something which will always be? Like, I see something and I don't like that. I don't like that. That's not for me. I want to avoid it. I want to associate with other things. Why did that develop? You know, it has an actual purpose, but we're always told, you know, things just sort of appear because, you know, we're peasants. If we're peasants, like, we don't need to ask questions. We just need to shut up and work. Dehumanization, man or bear? Bear, lol. Always picking the bear. Oh my God. Yeah, normies, but normies do deflect. They don't want to deal with these topics. Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. She shouldn't be acting like that. Okay. Oh, that's okay. Awesome. Great. Yeah. Well, I'm not here to like just judge things based on what's right and wrong. I'm here to understand, get a bigger picture, be able to relate to the different types of people and gather the information and data objectively, rather than just sit around and be like, that's a sin, that's wrong. It's like, okay, great, thanks for letting me know. Yeah, we can't do that. I'm so sick of it. That's why it's like, it's frustrating to me. It's so frustrating because people are always trying to tell me, oh, well, that's wrong. It's like, I don't give a shit. I don't care. Okay, cool, that's wrong. Like, I'm not asking if it's right or wrong. I'm asking what it is. I'm trying to understand it. Can you please stop for a second? I like constantly am trying when I'm dealing with the average person and with myself, obviously. I mean, I did come out pretty in tune with being able to do this type of work. But that's the thing that I'm always running up against. I'm like, "Oh, well that's wrong." Okay, great. Awesome. I didn't ask you. I was asking what it is. So be ready for that. Be ready for that in yourself and people around you if you're trying to ever talk about these types of things. Okay, let's go. So she's going into her emotions and actually what her emotions were like.
Hunger is not an emotion, but it is a feeling, you know? And if you're kind of like psychopathic, then that's kind of where you're focusing is like, this is what I recognize about myself. Those are the things that, those are the actual feelings that I feel regularly and I can recognize about myself. And then once, so that's how it was before. And now that I have like this sense of self, I think that you know, a satisfaction emotion, you know, is a little bit more complex. It's way more complex to feel for.
Do you hear how she's describing it? A satisfaction emotion. Don't take anything for granted. Don't take anything for granted. You have to look at things, look past the labels. And she had to put these labels together. We wouldn't say that, like feeling. She's like, you can hear the way she describes it. It's how she organizes and categorizes these things that she's learned to adopt and integrate into herself in her everyday life. Wrong and right have the same amount of letters. Good one.
About myself. And then once, so that's how it was before. And now that I have like this sense of self, I
Can't you see her? Sorry. Can't you see her be like, I killed your dog? Like she doesn't feel anything about, I beat your dog to death. You know, like some messed up stuff. She's just like putting on a show. It's like, bro, cool. Thanks. Yeah.
that's how it was before. And now that I have
I
like
didn't
this
have
sense of self,
emotions.
I think that you know, a satisfaction.
I didn't have a sense of self. She knows to like smile to disarm people. It's creepy. Like, come on, we gotta get together.
Satisfaction emotion, you know, is a little bit more complex. It's way more complex to feel, for instance, fulfillment. In order to feel fulfillment, you have to have a sense of self. You have to, you know, like where you are in life. There's so much context and nuance to it. And you really aren't able to feel that sense of fulfillment until you establish that sense of self. So after I did establish the sense of self, yes, I had like the, I don't know if it's the full palette of emotions, but it's way broader than it was before. So I do feel things like devotion, I feel things like loyalty, I feel things like disappointment when, you know, people do not live up to their end of the bargain. You know, all these kind of like social like emotions that you would have in reaction to somebody. I'm finally experiencing these.
Reaction to someone. Again, originally she talked about how the only way she really could engage with people is through manipulation, right? And now she's started to integrate and utilize these emotions that you kind of use when you're interacting with people. This reactionary thing. Like, I can feel an emotion in relation to you. And now I know this kind of might, again, seem shocking, seem unreal that this person is this way. You might say, okay, that's bad. That's weirdo. She's a bad person. We are talking from a propagandist perspective. We're not talking from a normie perspective. We're looking at just how things are and what things are objectively. Okay. Um, and she didn't have those emotions. So why this is important to be objective and try to like recognize this is who she is and how she operates, because if I'm going to try to manipulate her with some type of or influence her, I'm not going to like immediately rely on emotions, would I? I wouldn't rely on those things. I wouldn't try to guilt her into doing it. That wouldn't work if I was targeting her. Um But if I'm just like, oh, I'm a normie, I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna do and just try to browbeat her and make her do what I want. It's like, no. That's why I love propagandists so much. They don't care. They're just whatever will work. And so I would put together some type of messaging or however I would approach her to deal with her at this logical level that she has. So let's go back for a second.
Disappointment when people do not live up. You really aren't able to feel that sense of fulfillment until
Don't you like this background music? She's like, da da da, I don't have feelings, la 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 la.
you establish that sense of self. So after I did establish the sense of self, yes, I had like the, I don't know if it's the full palette of emotions, but it's way broader than it was before. So I do feel things like devotion, I feel things like loyalty, I feel things like disappointment when people do not live up to their end of the bargain. All these kind of like social emotions that you would have in reaction to somebody. I'm finally experiencing these. It's been hard to get better, and now it's hard to have emotions. It's great, but it's also hard.
Yeah. Here we go, babes. I'm finally having emotions. La 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 la. I love that. I love that for her. I'm really proud of her for doing the work. That's it's not easy. Anytime we're tasked with, some limitations, some flaws in our behavior, it takes work. And most people, and you're going to hear me say this a lot too, because I'll call somebody out immediately. Most people are cowards and they're not willing to do the work because then I'll feel bad about myself. And I need to do whatever I can to avoid feeling bad, even if that means just perpetuating negative behaviors for the same dog shit outcomes that I'm getting. Because I'm too much of a coward and immature to deal in reality and identify what's necessary to do to change. Okay, Nikki, do they feel embarrassment? Meaning, can they be shunned or shamed by a group? Well, I'm sure they can. I'm sure there's a process to integrate all of these things. But let me see if I can get the other video. I thought this was the longest one. And I usually download the videos off of YouTube from my Macintosh, but I am on my PC, my streaming PC. So let me see if I can grab it and we can like stream it through. I haven't tried it before. So just just to review, the crucial first step, the beginning first step is to be able to interface with reality, like objective reality. Because you're not going to be able to identify what factors you need to manipulate, whether it's in a person, in an environment, in a social system, whatever it is, you're not going to be able to identify the factors you need to actually manipulate what will produce the outcome you want, what needs to change to produce the outcome you want if you're dealing with your projected like fantasy of what you think it should be. It's like nobody cares. Nobody cares. I don't care about what you want it to be. And this is the other thing. Most people deal with change and they start from the perspective of this is how I want it to be. This is how it should be. And so I'm just going to I'm going to plan everything that I do based on that. When it's like, okay, that's awesome. That's not it's not going to get you the results you want, but okay. If that makes you feel better, because it's all about ego, it's all about my feelings. I want this to be. It has to be. I was told this way. I was told a story that this is how things should be. So that's what I'm going to hold on to desperately and just be too much of a coward to change it. Even if I see that I'm failing over and over and over and over again and I haven't made any progress. Oh my God. And then you bring that up to people and then you're the bad guy. sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So it's about catering to your delusions. Okay, well, here you go. It's like, get away from that. But propagandists know how to, and social engineers, they know how to balance that. They don't make things too abrupt. They don't just like put it in the face. Like I call it, I call it like, I call it like making someone face directly into the sun. Most of us, when we're arguing things, when we're trying to convince people of things, we just sort of try to like, hey, look at this is real. Ah, and then people are going to obviously have a negative reaction to it because it's too uncomfortable. It's a new thing. It's literally like looking into the sun. It's like staring directly in the sun, and you want to put someone, and you think, hey, if I give them more information and I just make them go through this like incredibly painful process in one conversation, they're going to just change their mind. Like, oh, the thing that they had this whole time, the fantasy they believed in, they're just going to change it once I give them the right
Want to
keywords.
become an
No.
amazing content creator?
Okay. Get this. Let's see. Can you guys
Motion
hear this?
graphics, presets, plugins,
Can you guys
music,
hear this?
SFX.
Because I don't know. Sometimes Chrome, I'm trying to view it through Chrome, and I don't know if it connects through Chrome. God knows. God knows I try. Okay, you can't make me do work. Yeah. I did find it interesting that this psychopathic woman chose being a lawyer. Maybe it's easy to hide your emotions in that profession. You think? You think? You think? A lot of these things. A lot of these things that don't really take into account human mutual benefit are good professions, I'm sure, for psychopaths. Um, Let me know if you can hear any audio from this. Sorry about it. I'm gonna next time I'll have the all the clips downloaded, or just make sure that this Chrome. I hate this. Make sure Chrome is like working properly. Okay, I don't know. Now at the philosophy, who would dare ask you to do that much? I don't know, but I'll work as hard as I have to do that I don't have to work. Okay, good. Yeah. Like I I would recommend blame. If you decide, hey, I don't want to do the work, I don't want to, progress in any way, I would find someone to blame. First, I would other them, I would demonize them and other them, and then I would blame. I would blame all my problems on them. That's what I do with men, because I'm a raging like feminist who's like toxic feminist who's like, scorched earth type feminist. And I can just say, hey, nothing I do, my ideology, nothing I do is my fault. I can just find, like, let's say men, and blame them. Makes things easier. Because my life's so much easier. I mean, this is the kind of, I'm just kidding. That's not what I do. Just kidding. But it makes things easier. You don't have to feel the uncomfortable feelings. I just get to be right all the time. Yay. So much easier. So much easier to just be right all the time. That's what I do with men. Thank you. I hope you guys get a sense of my humor. I'm inflammatory and over the top and a little bit bombastic and antagonizing sometimes, but that's because I feel like, and it pisses people off, but early on I knew I made really bad first impressions with people. I don't know why. Just because usually I'm just like not in the mood. And I make usually bad impressions. And so I sort of learned with this antagonistic approach, sometimes with this sort of bombastic, over the top approach, like even using humor, it helps people break out of autopilot. It helps people say, hey, let's pay attention. Because again, this is another thing, a gem that I really appreciate, and we'll be going through when we go through the rigorous chapters on how we perceive and interpret information, especially visual communication and visual information. um there's a lot that we're filtering out. The human brain actually spends a lot of time filtering out information, because if you think about it, like if you've ever done psychedelic drugs, I've never done that because I judge people who do. Obviously. um if you think about psychedelics, it sort of is this state of mind where you're not blocking out as much information. You're seeing more colors, you're seeing more, you're taking in more information. It gives you this like weird feeling that sort of happens with the soft hard drugs, or the hard soft drugs. I can't tell which ones like I would be. Anyway, it's your brain is constantly filtering out information, so it's easy, like your subconscious absorbs it, your subconscious takes it all in, because it's that's what it's capable of doing. It has information of the collective consciousness. There's so much it's taking in, and that's why it doesn't really stop to translate that information to verbal, like the verbal linear process of speaking. I'm speaking. A woman is speaking. Speaking. Um, because it's all about information, it's all about bandwidth, it's all about packaging. Pictures worth a thousand words, right? Mm. Because words are a degraded form. They're a less sophisticated, less efficient way. Not less efficient, but they are efficient, but less complex way of giving someone some information. Like I can describe something to you, but there's so much more information you can take in by looking at a picture. And sorry, I know I'm jumping all over the place. I really apologize. But these are a lot of points I just want to like tap on, just because again, this is a whole new mindset. It's a whole new way of perceiving things. Because if I'm thinking, okay, how can I most effectively influence this person? How can I reach their subconscious, reach them, get their attention? Because again, the mind is constantly filtering out information, it's not paying attention to things. um, how do I get their attention? Which propagandists, they have a really difficult time. That's one of their biggest challenges, is getting through that block, getting through that barrier, because there's so many things competing for our attention, and the propagandist really wants to grab hold and maintain your attention against all the like conflicting things that are popping up that you would switch to and look around to. um, so you have to look at what's the best and most effective, means of giving this information, conveying these concepts to people, starting to build these neural networks. And all of these things have to be taken to account. And you need to understand, unfortunately, I mean, fortunately, you need to understand how these things work. So if I'm verbalizing something to you, you build an image in your head, right? You have a certain emotional reaction to the things I say. But because it's just me verbalizing it, it's a way different, potentially way less impactful, and way less accurate way of communicating and getting a point across than giving someone an image to look at or having them watch a movie. These are the things. These are the things we'll be talking about, because this is badass. Jill, hey, what's up? Yes, I'm so glad to be back. I have been well. I'm so glad to be back. That's what I do. Sorry, and you're so funny. You're cracking me up. Hard, soft in the day, soft, hard at the night. Preach. I love it. I'm going to be making lots of off color jokes. And if it offends you, let me be the first to say I really don't care. No, just kidding. I do care. It's my humor, I try to be a little bit, let's push the boundaries. Let's build that tolerance. Like maybe I'll say something potentially. And again, this goes into mindset and discipline of a propagandist. They can't just react emotionally every time they see something they don't like. You have to be disciplined. You have to be able to deal with it. You have to have somebody tell you something and not just react to it. If that's how propagandists get us so much, is they are able to do things that they know will set off this like autopilot response, put us into, like, let's say fear, for example. If they're using a trauma or using fear to manipulate us, they'll put us in that lower state of consciousness where we're not using logic, we're not like thinking and using foresight, we're sort of just reacting, right? That's a much easier place to put someone to get to manipulate them. So you have to be disciplined. You can't just be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe she's." Oh my gosh. It's just, you got to get it. You got to toughen up. Okay, let me see if this audio works. I hope it does. I really, really do. I'm going to put this video and I'm going to put this video in here because it's really, really interesting to me how the mind works. And as someone, I work in design, and you really learned so much about how to maintain attention, how to communicate effectively, and I really appreciate that because it's been a huge advantage, especially with my personality. Specific window. Okay, especially with my personality, I'm just so over like doing things just because, oh, that's just how it's done. It's like, I don't care. I really don't care. I want to look at things objectively and be like, can we try a different way? Maybe this isn't working. Okay, let me get this video. I want to get the other. Let's see, screen capture games. Okay, let's see. Let's see if I can do this. Now, I hope maybe if you're there, just put a comment down what you're taking from this. I hope I'm not being like too all over the place. I need to I need to put bullet points for review together for future streams so we can sort of stay on the same page. I don't want to just constantly be throwing like different concepts out there and you're just like, what? That's not fun. That's not super fun. But I think as we grow and progress, these things sort of, it becomes, the new way of thinking. You're like, gotcha. Okay, why am I coughing so much? I feel like I've been talking like, oh, duh, I have been talking like nonstop for hours. Yeah, yeah, forgive me. I think what I'll do is I'll have my Substack and sort of just consolidate the key points so that we can review it and really integrate it into our understanding. Okay, let me see if this will count to. We come a long way together. Let's see.
What is your background, and how did you?
How did you come to realize that you were extremely fucked up? Sorry. Sorry. Okay. Okay, let me know if you can see this and let me know if you can hear this. Because I think it should translate over because it's just.
Did you come to realize that you had psychopathy?
My pseudonym is Emmy Thomas. I wrote the book Confessions of a Sociopath, a life spent hiding in plain sight. I'm a lawyer. I'm middle-aged now. I am a diagnosed psychopath. I have a big family. I live in a small community in California where I grew up. I enjoy playing with my nieces and nephews. I was a music major, and I have a jam session later on that I'm going to, and I mostly just live a normal life. I think I never understood the word psychopathy. I never understood the word psychopath until I was doing an internship. It was during law school, and I had a office mate who, you know, this internship, it was supposed to be like a 9 to 5 thing, but really we only had like 2 hours of work per day or something. So we started talking, and she was a very interesting person. I think that the nature of the conversations were probably maybe a little bit more open than I realized. After several weeks of this, she said, you might want to consider the possibility that you're a sociopath. And
My God, can you imagine? Hey, hon. Hey, hey, Deb. Hey, Deb. How's it going? Hey, Deb. How's it going? You know, I was talking to Richard, Kyle's friend, who works, and Richard was telling me he was dropping this note, and he was wondering if I would pass along to you. You know, if he thought, maybe you're a psychopath. Just an idea, hun. Just an idea. But yeah, so you're coming this weekend? Awesome. Awesome. I love that. Yeah. And scene. That I hope I can have that conversation one day. I really do. I really freaking do. Just really thought, she asked me, hey, do you think you're a psychopath? No. I'm no.
then I realized after several weeks of this, she said, you might want to consider the possibility that you're a sociopath. And so I just looked it up and found a website that had 12 criteria or something, and I kind of read through it, and I was like, actually, this does seem to fit. People had been telling me all my life, think more about others, consider others. What about other people's safety? What about other people's feelings? What about other people's needs? And that was not a very useful thought for me, because I was so bad at it. I mean, it just went so far against the grain that I basically, I was terrible at it. I even if I tried to, I'd forget the next day, and then it was like back to the same sort of.
So you see how I was saying earlier about verbal communication and the pros and cons of that, and how you need to give people the right method of delivery for the information that will really impact them and illustrate to them and guide them and give them something tangible. Now she's explaining, people said think of others. She heard that and she's like, okay, thinking of you, you're there. Like, she didn't have a way to actually, like, it didn't mean anything. And we're so caught up in our normie world of just doing things based on what we perceive has meaning, rather than actually analyzing what will have meaning to my target, what will have meaning to the person I'm trying to communicate to. And that's the difference of mindset. I'm not here to talk to myself, I'm here to talk to you so that you will mow the lawn or whatever.
Behavior. And I think one.
Oh, great stats, Nikki. Guys, look at this stat. A meta-analysis estimated the overall prevalence of psychopathy in the general population to be 4.5%, or approximately 1 in 22 people. Shout out. So one of you is probably a psychopath. The prevalence varies depending on factors like the assessment tool used, gender, higher in men. Yeah, because men do not care. They don't have emotions. Kidding. And the specific sample. Okay. Universal students. Yeah. God, I love making fun of radical like toxic femininity, like toxic feminists. I love making fun of them because they're so funny. So funny to me.
One of the things that kind of struck me is that, probably the labels that I think fit more closely are that I really didn't feel guilt. I understood that I didn't feel guilt. I understood that people had tried to shame me before into feeling guilt. I remember this time when I was you know, 8 or 9 or something, we're watching TV and there's this kid on the screen and he was, you know, disabled or something. And I made a joke about it. I made a joke about how he was disabled. And my dad said, "Have you no empathy?" And was just kind of like shocked and disturbed by whatever the joke was. And I thought to myself, what is empathy? And maybe I don't have it because, you know, I think I asked him, what is empathy? You know, and he started telling me, okay, you start feeling for other people. And I thought, well, definitely I don't do this. I mean,
Definitely.
it is one of my more negative traits, especially when,
She
like during my
specifically
20s, I call that kind of
She specifically said, F your feelings. I don't feel them.
like the playground stage, because that was like when all of my psychopathic traits were at their peak. And if somebody cried, I would get angry with them. You know, I thought crying is kind of a manipulative tactic, because you know I don't understand crying, especially if we had like a close relationship. They were a friend for several years. You know, they know I don't understand the crying. Why are they crying? Almost kind of like a use your words with a toddler thing. That would be my reaction with them. And then of course they just keep crying because it's like a terrible thing to engage with somebody. You're crying, you're upset, you know. So I had a friend whose dad was dying of cancer, and like after a while I just couldn't take it anymore. I was like, you know what? You are way too emotional. I cannot handle your emotion. Let's take a break from each other. And I think her dad died while we were during this break, you know, that I took, which was, you know, I can't handle your emotion while your dad's dying. I mean, now I look back at it and I think that's not being a good friend. But
You think, honey? That's not being a good friend? She's like, I don't want to deal with your emotions. But again, she has this condition. She wasn't doing it maliciously. She just was like, this is kind of, and she's like, this is an inconvenience to me. All right, Nikki, what did you say? It's such an advantage. We'll definitely do that. Not really. This is definitely an advantage. It's an advantage in some sense. Okay, sorry. This is not my. Okay, here's a number 2, the second video. We watched.
What are
4
some things you've
first.
done as a result of your psychopathy?
Try to
sometimes
drown
when I think
cats.
about these stories, these guilt stories, I don't know what people would feel guilt about. So I do have a little bit of mind blindness there, you know, like I've never lived the life of somebody who feels this empathy, this guilt way. And so I don't know what might trigger it. I've never have really felt anything for animals. You know, I've never had a pet or ever felt like a connection to animals.
Okay. I'm like, Soren, I'm checking my DMs. I really, you guys share this, please, please, please. This is going to be fun. This is the first stream. We're going to have lots of streams. We're going to get into things that no one talks about. And I'm not being autistic. I'm just like, just trying to have some fun. Okay? No, but seriously, share this, please. Share it with people. Subscribe to my channels. I'm in YouTube, Rumble. You know, YouTube doesn't like me because I tell the truth, and I'm that chick. So wherever you are, definitely subscribe and help me out, because we have a lot. We have a lot of fun stuff we're gonna get into. Like, again, y'all ain't ready for this. Like, no one talks about these things. No one's ready for it. Everybody's like, oh, surface level. Oh, bullshit. Be a good person. It's like, what? What does that even mean? How about we just actually do something? So, how do I crush people like this? Nikki, gosh. Thank you. I appreciate everybody who shared and subbed and so on and so forth, because we're going to get into it. Okay, let me tell him read your response. Okay, it's time to expose. Yeah, it's time to expose. Okay, let's get back into it.
I've never like tortured animals. I know, you know, some psychopaths do for various reasons. You know, I never was one of those that tortured animals. But one time I was teaching swimming lessons. I went out, I saw there was this baby opossum. It was like this big, you know, just like struggling to try to get out of the pool. And I thought, oh, baby opossum must have fallen in the pool in the night or in the early morning. And now he's trying to get out. But I also thought, you know, a possum is a pest. I don't want this opossum around me. If I fish him out, then who knows what he's gonna do. You know, even like domesticated animals can kind of turn on you, especially when they feel like they're kind of in that fight or flight kind of moment. So I was like, I'll just drown the opossum. What I did is just got a hose and just kept like hosing him. So he's trying to like get up, and I'm just like trying to drown him with the hose. And I do that for like 5 minutes. And he's actually a trooper, this baby opossum. And so I thought, this is not working. I will just cancel the swimming lesson.
She tried to drown it with a hose. What is she doing? I told you. She's a psychopath. Listen, she tried to drown it with a hose. She was like, this is an inconvenience. This is an inconvenience. This is not efficient. We need to be able to oscillate and balance. Balance. She drowned it. The look she gave, I know. She's just like, it's not dying fast enough. It's not dying fast enough. Okay, seriously, you guys, like, you're all watching this. Like, please share it. Like it. Like, let's do this. Okay, all right, let me pull this.
And so I thought, this is not working. I will just cancel the swimming lesson and just go off and do something else, you know, go to the beach for that afternoon. I think maybe that seems cold-hearted to people, the way I went about it. But that's just kind of, and that's kind of an interesting thing too. We're socialized to think different things are cold-hearted. And I guess I just am immune to socialization in general, most socialization. So one kind of
She's like, we're just sort of told to be this way because it's not this innate thing. She doesn't have that, like, sort of subtle reinforcing mechanism that we get from society. She has to analyze it and just look at it objectively and say, hey, what is this? What is this labeled? I should do this in reaction. Why should I do it? You know, she has to be told in this sort of conscious step-by-step process, whereas we just, we absorb things. We have this intuitive nature to us. There's very subtle cues that we might pick up. And for whatever reason, obviously I'm not an expert with this, and her condition, she doesn't have that. So she has to surface everything to try to make it a part of her behavior. And it is the way it is. It's something, if you're going to be a propagandist, if you're going to look at effectively persuading people, because I know how much you guys hate the word manipulation. Oh, it's mean. But if you're going to be effective at persuading people and educating people efficiently, you're going to need to identify these things. Oh, we've got Jewess. Hey, I don't torture animals. Proceeds to describe how she tortured an animal. I know. To be honest, Soren says, to be honest, you're not supposed to like her in the sense that her problem, whatever that might be, either her lack of honesty or lack of feelings, isn't desirable. Yeah, these are all, yes, thank you. These are all things we deem as a society and have over time found to be undesirable, found to be negative, found to be detrimental to the success of the group. Again, nothing just happens. These are just happen. They don't just appear. We don't just do them just to do them. And these things, this behavior is just not, it's not long term going to be the most beneficial, because it's not as effective, it's not as efficient. We want to be able to empathize with each other, we want to be able to connect, we want to build these deep bonds, to support the group when we're going through challenging times. It's just not desirable. It's just not a desirable thing. So again, please start whatever it is, even the smallest thing. Start to think about, okay, why is it like this? Not just it is this way. It's to take that step back and sort of reflect and say, why is it like this? Why do I do this? What do I get out of it? What's the purpose? What's the motivation that I have? All of these things are going to help you settle in, and especially if you want to protect yourself from negative propaganda and social engineering, you need to settle in and start to connect with who you are, why you do things, what are your fears, what are your biases, What are the things you're overlooking? All of these things. And you're not going to do it by just going along to get along. You have to take a moment, reflect, have that contrast, similar to how she's, trying to analyze things.
Example that stands out to me is I was living in Los Angeles, and it was like a 12 unit apartment complex. It was kind of a nice apartment complex, and I was an attorney at the time, and I was like making, like well into the six figures. And so it was very comfortable for me to pay the rent. But I noticed that my neighbors across from me, they were driving like 1980s, 1990s Civics. Both of them were driving these old Civics. And I kind of thought, I wonder how these people are paying rent. I thought of it sometimes. I also noticed though that since they parked right next to me, that they had these two bikes that were collecting dust. So I had a friend visit me one weekend, and I thought, let's go biking. And I thought, well, I have my bike, but I don't have a bike for you. I don't want to like have to drive somewhere and rent a bike. It's very inconvenient. Let's just take my neighbor's bikes. So I went down and I pumped up the air, and the seats had dust on them. I mean, they clearly hadn't been ridden for years, and they were just little cheap Schwinn guys, probably $100 bikes or something. So we bike, and then we come back several hours later. We bike to the beach. It was great. It was fun. And then in the evening, I get this knock on the door, and I go answer it. Luckily, it was me and not my roommate at the time. But I answer it, and it's my neighbor. And she said, my bikes were missing earlier. We were looking all over for them, and then we noticed that they were replaced. Do you know what happened with the bikes? And I said, yes, I took your bike, and I borrowed it, and I took it to the beach with my friend. And she was like color drained from her face. And she was so angry at me. And she was like, why would you do something like that? And I'm gonna call the police, and that's theft. And I said, it's probably not theft. Technically, if anything, it's conversion, the tort of conversion, and you'd have to sue me in small claims court. And I don't think the damages would be very high because I just took it for several hours.
Wow.
And that was kind of my reaction, but she was like livid. The thing that people find most shocking probably about the book is when I say that I'm probably smarter than the person reading the book. And I find that to be an unusual reaction. To me, for that to be the most shocking thing in the book it surprised me. I didn't understand why they would feel that way, because that's just statistically true. I mean, I score in the 99th percentile on all standard.
Excuse me. Excuse me, how to win friends. No.
Tests, like on the regular. Maybe there's been once or twice when I haven't scored out of the 99th percentile, but even on graduate school tests or something. So
I mean, she has a lot of bandwidth and brain power. Ugh, God. She has a lot of bandwidth and brain power because she doesn't have to feel emotions. Do you know how much time and energy? Do you know how much we waste on emotions? Like actually calories? Like it takes energy to feel things. And we spend a lot of times. That's why it's like, sometimes I'm just like, come on, please. Just put it aside. That infuriates people more, but it's like, come on, let's like shelf this, save this energy, refocus it on things you need. That's why it's like sitting around pouting and feeling guilty. Oh, my woe is me. It's counterproductive sometimes, unless it's for reflection. It's like, oh well, keep it moving. Man, talk about a manipulator. I know that story was really good. Yeah, that story's really good. And she's using out her neighbor's stuff. Yes, exactly. She's in it. She's a sociopath. She doesn't.
So I think, that is probably the more shocking thing, is that I'm just willing to kind of own things. I think people find me to be narcissistic. I think they think that, I have such a big ego, when really I just kind of feel like, I know I'm 5'4". I know I weigh the amount of pounds that I weigh. I know that I am like the whatever size and underwear, bra, shoe, and I also know that I'm in the 99th percentile for sure for intelligence, at least as it's measured on standardized tests.
Okay, so basically, she doesn't care about being a bad bitch. She just knows she's smarter than you. Okay. Here.
So what is
Okay,
ClickUp?
last
ClickUp is an
clip.
all-in-one productivity software where you can manage everything and anything
Sorry.
related.
Sorry. This channel doesn't have This isn't my
What is it
thing.
like to go through?
Okay, let's take a breather for a second. I hope that you guys are following it. Again, I'm Layla. I talk about propaganda, social engineering, just how to be a more efficient communicator so you can achieve your objective. And we're just talking about mindset, and we're using this example of an actual psychopath to show how radically different people's thinking is. And I think it's pretty interesting. I think it's really, really interesting actually. And it's shocking. We go through life just seeing things how we sort of view them, projecting onto other people. But a propagandist knows they're not going to achieve their objective if they're just dealing with an illusion. They're not really, focusing on what's real, what's going to be most effective, what's going to engage the person, get their attention, what motivates them. They can't just project onto people.
Through life with
Okay, what's it
psychopathy?
like to go?
Honestly, having a personality disorder is like kind of wearing like glasses, prescription glasses when you don't need them or something. It just kind of constantly distorts everything that you see around you, like funhouse mirrors. It distorts how you view yourself, and it distorts how you view other people. So you don't really have the right, let's say, judgment or clear vision about yourself or what is good or normal, especially since you haven't been in touch with it maybe since you were like an infant, or have never, felt these types of emotions. You have no clue how to get in touch with them. Most of the time I would be feeling things like, like joy, the happy ones, right? Never guilt, never even really sadness, never remorse, although sometimes I regretted things. So I was aware that I had kind of a dull, let's say, emotional palette, kind of more black and white than color. I still don't really feel fear. I definitely do take more risks than a normal person does. So, I did skiing, snow skiing, like snow ski racing even, and that was pretty dangerous. You can die skiing pretty easily. I think I understood that, and I love to go fast. And I would describe nervousness this way. I can tell that my body is having a fight or flight reaction. It's almost like you can kind of taste the adrenaline happening. I don't feel nervous, but I know my body is nervous, kind of. People that are high performers, like sports athletes, people like professional musicians, I guess they do get that spike in adrenaline, but they just interpret it as being like a sharpening factor in their performance. So now like the adrenaline's helping their brain to kick in a little extra sharp, and so they can do an even better job performing. And that's more how it feels, although you still feel like, it kind of feels like jittery a little bit, like you have had too much caffeine or something. But that is what I feel. I do think maybe sometimes I'm still a little bit of a danger to myself, but I mean, I kind of just, I don't care. That's one thing that hasn't changed with therapy, is I still don't care. Like I would welcome death. Death is
Okay, oh my God. I would welcome death. Ah, it's like, whoa, lady. So again, so you're not going to be able to like manipulate her in the typical ways that you would manipulate a regular person, because she's neurodivergent. Not feeling fear. Yeah. In fact, you're not feeling fear makes her more efficient. Exactly. Exactly. Nikki. She don't feel fear. And there are two ways humans interact: speech and physical. Okay. Number two. Okay. She is number two. Oh, that's interesting how she's like number two.
fine. I never thought of it as a problem until probably my mid-30s. And I think that's actually pretty common with the other psychopaths that I've met, is they, if anything, it seems like a superpower, especially I would say in your teens and into your early 20s through your 20s, because what it kind of means is you just do not care what other people think. And if you can imagine, normal people with your teenage years of insecurity or whatever else was going on, I watch TV shows about it and it sounds miserable. It looks miserable. I don't know how you all got through high school, but for me, it was no problem because I didn't care what other people thought. And so it was just like completely free to do whatever I wanted.
Okay. All right. All right, babes. So Okay, so there's 4. And let me get rid of this. Let me hide that. Okay, get rid of that. So we saw the 4th one to begin with. If you're just tuning in, or you're just coming to the stream, we watched the 4th one to begin with. So just go back to the beginning, and you'll be able to see how she actually went and got treatment. So I doubt she doesn't care if she dies. Yeah, I don't think she I think she does care. In the moment she would care for sure. But it's just not something that she feels immediately, like the same sort of emotional reaction maybe that we do. So I thought that was really, really interesting. Let me know, what do you guys think about this? This is really crazy. But again, this is to help us break out of our sort of consideration of normal and see how things should be, how I should act, what I should consider, what I should analyze. These are all going to be really, really crucial for us going forward, becoming better um, leaders, better influencers, people who influence, better manipulators, better propagandists. So these things are going to be really important to change the way we think, to not just run on autopilot, to sort of adopt a new set of protocol. That way, we're not just absorbing what's around us, we're actually trying to logically break down and even tease out and take out the negative programming that we've received, like all of our lives, you know? All of that takes work. All of that takes a shift in mindset. And I think that lady was a great example of how radically different people can think, people can act, and people can feel. So this takes time. It's not something you develop overnight, but it starts to become instinctive. Like the first step of the whole process, I would say, of influencing people is utilizing tactical empathy, where you're trying to understand them at the deepest level. You're using it tactically. You're not just trying to, oh, tell me about your sister's baby. You're trying to utilize it for a purpose. Hostage negotiators use what's called tactical empathy to get their targets to open up to them, to share with them their thoughts, their feelings, and motivation so that they can better message to them, because people like to share. They want to be heard, they want to be seen, they want to be acknowledged. And these are all important things. So, if you like this video, um, please like, share it with others. Let them know we're doing things a little bit differently here, covering a little bit different topics. So that's it for today. You can find me on Rumble, Propaganda Fluent, YouTube, Instagram, all at Propaganda Fluent. And then on X, Twitter, you can find me at Propaganda Layla. I don't know who or what took my name, but I'm not happy about it. And I'm going to put in, let me see. Let me get my Substack link. You go to my profile on X if you're there, and I'm going to put it into the description of the video on Rumble and YouTube, my Substack, because I'm going to publish basically the bullet points from this whole stream and what we covered. So, it's a little bit easier to digest, and you can come back and even rewatch and try to pick things out and take notes. Well, I will see you again soon. I haven't really pinned down the best days to stream, but if you have an idea of days that you think would be really good to stream and, would work with your scheduled times, even suggestions, I'm definitely open to it. And yeah, we're going to get into it. It's going to get a little harsh. It's going to be a little extreme. Going to feel uncomfortable, but we're going to lean into it. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. Is the propagandists, I'm tired of them controlling us. I'm tired of a society just not able to make progress. It's time to go. All right. All right, you guys. Have a great rest of your day. And remember, the psyop is probably the psyop. Yeah. All right. See you next time. I'm Layla.